right, and we are back on Crowdfundr Thunder. I am your host, Leon Barillaro, and I have Michael Sweeney, aka Innocent Goblin, with me today. How are you doing today?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you doing today?
My best, my best. But we are here to talk about your crowdfunder project, which is launching sometime in February. So why don't you please go ahead and introduce us to Grotty Gobbo's Tea Grotto?
Yeah, it is a solo journaling tabletop game. The idea is it's cozy, wholesome, cottagecore-esque, where you play as a tea-loving goblin and blend teas and build a little tea-loving community around you.
I love that.
Yeah. It mixes together a lot of my loves, basically tea and goblins, but also with tarot cards and journaling just together to make a very relaxing kind of cozy experience, with character creating and making all kinds of lovely fun goblins to go with it.
Absolutely. What how would you describe, like, if I were going to sit down with a cup of tea, which I don't have, I have bubbly sparkling water. But if I were to sit down with a cup of tea and play this game, what would like an average play session look like?
Yeah, you'd start the new day, you journal, you going into the running the tea grotto, which is um, almost like a bartender type thing. You're serving tea, you're talking to customers, and then you go off and interact with those in your community around you. Maybe make a new blend and introduce a new goblin to your community. If you haven't got anything specific that day to do, you can roll random events table and everything conjoins. We've had quite a few people in playtest just talk about how weirdly connected the daily events and the random things you're doing kind of connect to like a scary degree. It almost seemed like yeah. So it's a lot of journaling, talking to people, and interacting with other cozy characters.
Your goblins. So does the player like create the goblins that they get to encounter?
Yeah, I use a tarot card system for making a goblin using major arcana to determine kind of like an archetype. Out of each major arcana card has multiple different archetypes you can choose from, so you can really create a personal goblin, and then using the minor arcana to assess that goblin's goals and wants in life.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about I want the tea tech. Give me the tea mechanics. Like how does that part work?
I've pieced together uh, so many different tea ingredients and teas from around the world. And the idea is you're blending teas from tea bases like oolong and green tea and finding other ingredients that might go with it. I think the one I made was a chai with lots of ginger with rooibos, so caffeine free. There are tables for different flavor mixes and what goes well with what, but I kind of make it clear it's very optional. It's there for inspiration. If you want to make a hell blend that should not go together, just go for it.
I
It's
like to
often the
make
hell
like
blends that work well.
chocolate, orange peel. What I'm trying to come up with something that would
I mean,
make
you've
me.
just made a Terry's chocolate orange tea right
That's I'm so good at this. I'm incredible.
there.
And tea is a like you have a tea blending background, do you not?
I work in a tea shop.
That's
This is
so
where most
cool.
of this has come from. I've sat through so many workshops and like lectures for it that we do to um, we uh, we do for people that like the customers, various things like that. And I've also worked on something that's not come out yet, but worked on a game that's also about tea blending, which I don't think I can actually talk about.
Ooh. Ooh. Wow, we're getting the exclusive news here on Crowdfundr Thunder. But still, that's so cool. As someone who drinks at least 3 cups of tea daily, is that healthy? Well, it depends on the type of tea I'm drinking.
It's
But
healthy.
yeah, tea is good for
Yeah.
you. Drink it every hour. No, just kidding. Uh, but I love tea. I love drinking tea, and you know, I will share that when we were talking about this before, you showed me the spreadsheet of all the different tea ingredients and everything like that, and that just made me so excited to get to play in a game where, I get to make some cozy goblin friends and make tea blends for them. That's just such a fun concept.
Yeah, I will say it was weirdly difficult researching tea ingredients because you go into a whole rabbit hole of various health websites that are not very legit. But as someone who I have a very dull sense of taste because of my dyspraxia, finding information on what various things taste like is so difficult because the only two things they say is either bitter or earthy, and those two words don't mean anything. Like, so I had to really
Yeah.
dig deep to research a lot of these ingredients.
It's funny. I don't know what earthy means. People will say it and I just nod like, yeah, exactly what you said. Bitter, I feel like I have a good handle on, but to my unrefined palate, most things are either tasty or not tasty.
I don't know, I think even with bitter, there's such a big range of what a bitter thing could be. Like, I mean, how bitter something can be, because you can get some real bitter stuff that you wouldn't want to put with some green tea, but
That's true.
yeah.
Yeah, so we are recording this before your campaign is launching. So
Yeah.
remind me again, what day do you plan on setting your gobbos into the world?
My goblins will be released on the 1st of
On the
February.
1st of February.
Yeah, we're opening the goblin gates. They're gonna rush out,
Let them out. Yeah. Storming the gates
throw
of
tea bags at
Crowdfundr.
people.
I love that. So normally I would ask folks like, how's your campaign going? But yours hasn't started yet. So instead, I'm going to ask you sort of, how do you feel? How's your pre-launch going? Is there an aspect of it that has surprised you or delighted you or intimidated you, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's my first time crowdfunding anything, so usually my games are a lot smaller and just get thrown on itch randomly for free. But actually building up like a pre-launch and posting about things like about the game, and it's been so nice to get people's reactions, especially to the artwork that Rossi Sculpts has been doing, and the poems that the Goblin poet's been doing. Just I've been posting them just like bits and drabs, and it's been such an like amazing response so far that it's very exciting. Like, I've never really had that for a game I've made before, mainly because I for a lot of the games I didn't even tell people. I just put it up
Just put
there.
it on there, see what
Yeah.
happens. Yeah. Yeah. I forgot that you were having the Goblin poet add poems to your book. That's so cool. Speaking of the book, what um what kind of rewards can we expect on your campaign when it goes live?
Yeah. I because it's my first one, I didn't want to go too complicated. I've kept it very basic. So I've gone for a few very obviously a PDF. I want to make a physical copies as well. But then I got in contact with a tea company, a tea company that I'm drinking their tea right now.
Yeah, you can shout them out.
To
You're allowed to do that if you'd
Yeah,
like.
Bird and Blend. They're a UK based company that focus on blends, so obviously perfect for a game about blending tea. And they're fantastic. The drink I'm drinking now was a peppermint tea that's covered in peppermint oil, so it's really strong and just fantastic. This isn't, I've overbrewed this to all kinds of hell, but but I've got in contact with them about getting permission to send out tea samples and doing some higher rewards that could involve stuff like blending workshops. And one that I want to do, which is just a box full of tea, so you can drink along while you're
With your
blending teas.
goblins. Sorry, I'm trying really hard to you know, be excited for everybody's campaign, and I am. I'm so excited for everybody's campaign, but there's something that just like gets my heart right in that like right in the cute jugular, you know what I mean, about drinking tea with goblins. Where I'm just like, so cute. I need it now. Yeah, I'll be first in line on February 1st.
Oh, great. Yeah, I feel you. This all started as a joke. I tweeted about combining my two passions, tea and goblins, as a joke, and then I jokingly put the title Grotty Gobbo's Tea Grotto, and then I just couldn't think of a better title, so I just stuck with it and then actually made a game.
Yeah,
I was
I
working on
love
another
that.
game at the time, and I just stopped it and put it aside and started working on the first mechanics of this game in a weird evening haze.
Is this is Grotty Gobbo's tea grotto say that 10 times fast. Grotty Gobbo's tea grotto, Grotty Gobbo's, I can't do it. Is this how similar is it to other games you've designed in the past? Is there anything new that you're trying with this game?
I think the closest thing it is similar to is my other solo journaling game I made called Everyone Deserves Shelter, which I made for the Justice Game Jam earlier this year. Oh no, wait, last year.
Like
And where the idea is you play as a hermit crab trying to find shelter, find a new shell, and like helping other crabs along the way. And the character creation kind of thing, I took that and I've kind of adapted it. So it had the same idea where you use the major arcana to make archetypes, but then I use the minor arcana to tell you the themes of the day. So that would tell you what kind of trouble the person is you're helping. But I've swapped that now for the goals. So I've edited it in a way that fits this game, and I think it fits the game better. Because it can really make some really personal characters, whereas in the past it was more these are your obstacles that you're going through.
I love that. Wow, I'm sorry. You're uh crabs, goblins. Um your work is like touching a very like sensitive part of my heart of like these are so adorable, so cozy and quaint ideas. Um yeah, so you said that that was the other solo game that you've written, but it sounds like that means that you don't typically design solo games.
I hadn't really before then. I'd never played one before I started working on Everyone Deserves Shelter. I come from a very D&D background and like GMing that kind of game. So when I started making Everyone Deserves Shelter and realized just how fun solo games are and like how personal experience you can really craft, that kind of cinched to me. I did make another one called We Are All One, which is the complete opposite of the kind of cozy, wholesome vibe I have here at the moment. It's a very cynical, anti-capitalist. I had a lot of fun writing that game, um, but it's a very different vibe.
Yeah. Well, he's got the range. That's what it's all about. Do you have a favorite moment from play testing this game or a favorite scenario that you got back from your play testers?
I do. I was playtesting it I brought a new journal, this one that was covered in bees, and the first goblin that my character met was a kind of a musician who'd come into the community, and I called her Strings, I think it was, and because it was quite early on in the game development, there wasn't much motivation to do anything to do with the grotto. So I was playing a lot with talking to this character and like developing and building up a friendship with this character. And I had so much fun writing this character of Strings. It took like 10 minutes because I was just like, oh my god, this is really fun. And I think one of the best stories I've heard from people playtesting was someone who they rolled for a daily events and they got a rude customer in the grotto. And
Uh-oh.
yeah, it starts off quite bad, but then it was an instant romance, and like apparently they had a proper like whirlwind goblin romance.
I love
Which
that.
I love.
So
um,
wonderful.
yeah, and that just hearing the teas people make, because some of the teas they've made sound really good, and like a lot better than the teas I actually wrote for this game.
Have you blended a tea for playtesting this, like while playtesting this game, and then been able to try it out later? Is that something that's happened yet?
I've done the opposite. I've when I first started my job I'm in now, we had the chance to blend tea for ourselves. And the tea I made was a peppermint tea with lemon thyme and lemongrass. So a very fresh tea. And I've turned that into the Grotto House blend, which is the kind of, so I've made quite a few teas that I've based on like teas I've worked on and tea ideas I've come up with. I think I'm going to edit though. I'm going to add some licorice root into it. I think that'll be really nice.
That's so cool. I absolutely love how you have, combined these two things that you love and are interested in. That's game design, baby. So cool. So, going back to the campaign, I know that you said that this was your first time doing something like this, and you are going to launch very soon, next week, by the time of this recording. And so I was wondering if maybe you had any um like advice or wisdom or a lesson that you have learned that would make it easier for you next time, or would make it easier for someone who is just starting to, make their first campaign.
um, I'd say generally just trust what you're doing. I think it's one of the biggest. I mean, I'm a person full of doubt no matter what I'm doing. And I was at first like, this is a really weird little game. Why am I getting people to play this? And throughout playtesting, you're waiting for people to come back with feedback. I was just like, I really hope they're actually enjoying themselves. It'd be really awkward if they weren't. And I think just having faith that you can actually, I mean, if you've written it and it sounds fun, you can probably guarantee that they're going to be enjoying it and see that there is that kind of love built into it, which is really nice. And even then, like if it does come back with not exactly the best kind of feedback you were hoping, then it's easily changeable. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That is such a funny point too of just waiting for that feedback to come back. Because the types of games that I typically make are either things that I can run or supplements for other games that I also can run, so that when I play test it, at least the first couple of times, I can be in the room and, gauge other people's expressions while we're playing through it. And when I worked on my solo game and we sent out the form, I remember feeling like almost the exact same way of like, I have no idea if they're gonna fill this out and be honest or be nice to me because they're my friends. Like, I hope people like this. I can't watch them. I don't know if they're smiling when they're rolling the dice. What's going on? So it's funny that you mentioned that because I connected with that immediately.
Yeah, it wasn't even like the weird part was I wasn't even thinking like I hope it's good. I was thinking like I really hope they're not like making them go through some boring ass time. Like,
It's gotta be fun. Well, Michael, thank you so much for joining me here. We are just about out of time, so I do want to make sure that folks, if you like what you have heard on this episode today, then please absolutely head to Crowdfundr and back Grotty Gobbo's Tea Grotto. If you are catching this before February 1st, make sure that you click that subscribe button so you can be notified via email when it does launch. And Michael, where can people find you?
you can find me on basically Twitter, itch, drive through, all under Innocent Goblin.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and
Thank you for having me.
we'll see you next time.